This poem is the first poem in a sequence called The Winter's Tale. And I was a teacher for nearly 30 years, and I taught The Winter's Tale. It was one of my favourite plays to teach. And at the heart of the tale, there is a silence, as there is in many parts of Shakespeare, of 16 years in which Hermione, the queen, we presume is dead. But Shakespeare doesn't go there. He doesn't take us into her story. And we never actually hear what happened. So it was obviously very ripe for interpretation. And I wanted to imagine her life in that time. She's put on trial by Leontes, her husband, charged with adultery, of which she's innocent. And she's put in prison. And I did some research on 17th century women and discovered that someone of her status, normally when she's giving birth, would withdraw, and there would be a beautiful place prepared for her. But this queen gives birth in prison. So the first poem in the sequence is in the voice of one of her women servants. She was allowed to take some of them with her into prison. It's called Emilia. I could not staunch her body that first night when it seemed that every part of it was weeping. She was sluiced all right, and by no near neighbour. I could not find her eyes, so lost were they in the flow of face that seemed to melt as I looked into it, swollen in grief, animate, fluent with tears. Her breasts wept too, azure-veined and beautiful. We padded them with cabbage leaves, as the older woman said, and bathed her in a bath of borrowed water. This was no queen's chamber of her own, where white linen and flowers were readied for her welcome, her withdrawal, her privacy, away from men. This place was dark, piss-stinking, a heifer stall, where her calf came early and lusty from one prison to another, her mother said. She would feed this child herself, as if knowing this was all she could impart before the severance. It drank her in. The queen turned wet nurse. Where her daughter came, she bled, and we saved the child's packing to bury under a winter thorn, where Paulina said something of this little one would blossom from the dead. When the child was gone, she seemed to leave us too, delirious and dreaming. She was going out to give the child a name, and when we leaned in close to hear, it was the name of the lost, Perdita, that came.